You already know why. That is what makes this so frustrating. You know why you procrastinate when something matters. You know why you become quiet around certain people. You know why you agree to things you do not want to do. You know why you keep returning to someone who keeps hurting you. You know why you distract yourself the moment your real work becomes uncomfortable. You have named the pattern. You have examined your childhood. You have listened to the podcasts. You have saved the quotes. You may even be able to explain your behavior more clearly than the people around you can explain theirs. And still, the next opportunity arrives, and you hesitate. The next boundary needs to be spoken, and you stay silent. The next morning begins, and your hand reaches for the same distraction. The same fear enters the room, and the same version of you answers it. So let me ask you something. What if your lack of self-awareness is not the problem? What if you already understand yourself well enough, but you have started using that understanding as a place to hide? Stay with me until the end of this video, because by the end, you will understand 3 reasons insight does not automatically create change. You will know how to recognize the exact moment when reflection becomes avoidance. And you will have one simple habit you can use the next time an old pattern takes control. Not next year, not when you finally feel confident. In the moment it happens. And near the end, I will ask you one question. The first honest answer that enters your mind may reveal the pattern you need to change next. Do not answer it yet. Just listen. Self-awareness is supposed to be a bridge. It helps you understand where you came from so you can choose where you are going. But sometimes the bridge becomes a waiting room. You keep examining the past. You keep discovering new explanations. You keep learning more about your attachment style, your fears, your personality, your wounds and your triggers. It feels meaningful. It feels productive. It may even feel like healing. But your behavior remains exactly where it was. That's the first trap. Your explanation becomes permission. You say, I avoid confrontation because conflict never felt safe when I was younger. That may be completely true. I overthink because uncertainty makes me anxious. Also understandable. I push people away because trusting someone has hurt me before. Again, that may explain a great deal. But listen carefully. An explanation should increase your ability to choose. It should not remove your responsibility to choose. Your past deserves compassion, but your future also deserves protection. You can understand why you learned a behavior without allowing that behavior to make every future decision for you. Imagine someone who repeatedly cancels opportunities at the last moment. They know they fear judgment. They understand exactly where that fear began. Every time they cancel, they analyze the fear again. They write about it. They explain it. They promise themselves they will be ready next time. But the next opportunity arrives, and the analysis begins again. The explanation is accurate. The behavior is unchanged. That's not useless self-awareness. It's unfinished self-awareness. Reflection is only complete when it changes what happens next. Otherwise, it becomes a beautiful description of a life you continue repeating. And this becomes even more dangerous when a repeated behavior stops being something you do and starts becoming who you believe you are. You stop saying, I sometimes avoid difficult conversations, and begin saying, I am avoidant. You stop saying, I learned to seek approval, and begin saying, I am a people pleaser. You stop saying, I overthink when I feel uncertain, and begin saying, I am an overthinker. At first, the label helps. It gives a confusing pattern a name. It tells you that you are not the only person who experiences it. But slowly, the label changes jobs. It stops describing your behavior and starts predicting your future. I cannot say no. I am a people pleaser. I cannot trust anyone. I have attachment problems. I cannot finish anything. I am a procrastinator. That is simply how my mind works. Be careful with the phrase, that is just who I am. It has ended more possibilities than failure ever could. A label should be a flashlight. It should help you see the pattern. It should never become a life sentence. You are not your most practiced reaction. You are the person who learned that reaction. And a learned response can be interrupted. Slowly, imperfectly, one real situation at a time. But there is another trap, one that thoughtful people rarely notice. You begin observing yourself instead of participating in your life. You're speaking to someone, but part of your mind is standing outside the conversation, studying you. Did I sound insecure? Was I being authentic? Was that people-pleasing? Did I reveal too much? Did I set the boundary correctly? What does their expression mean? What does my reaction say about me? You are no longer simply having a conversation. You are performing the conversation, watching the performance, and judging the performer, all at the same time. No wonder you feel exhausted. You are trying to live your life and conduct a psychological investigation of it simultaneously. Let me show you how this appears in an ordinary moment. We'll call her Nora. Nora is thoughtful, reliable, and highly self-aware. She knows she struggles with people-pleasing. She understands that approval became important to her early in life. She knows that disappointing someone can make her feel as though she is in danger of losing the relationship. She has written about this pattern for years. One Friday afternoon, her manager asks whether she can complete another project during the weekend. Nora already has plans. She is tired. She knows that accepting the work will make her resentful. And while her manager is speaking, Nora notices everything. She notices the tension in her chest. She notices the immediate urge to prove that she is dependable. She recognizes the entire pattern while it's happening. She is completely self-aware. And then she says, "Of course, no problem." That evening, she goes home and writes 3 pages about why she said yes. The analysis is accurate. The insight is impressive. But Nora is still working through the weekend. This is the part most self-help advice misses. Nora does not need another explanation. She needs another response. She needs a sentence prepared before the moment arrives. Something like, "I can take this project, but I will need to move the Monday deadline. Which task should take priority?" That sentence may not remove her guilt. It may not make the fear disappear, but it gives her something to do while the fear is present. That's the difference between understanding a pattern and changing one. Understanding says, "I know why I do this." Change says, "I know what I will do differently when this happens again." Pause for a moment. Think about one behavior you understand extremely well but continue repeating. Do not analyze where it came from. Not yet. Ask a smaller question. When does it happen? Is it when someone criticizes you? When you feel behind? When your work might be judged? When you are lonely? When you are tired and your phone is beside you? When someone asks you for more than you genuinely have to give? The pattern is not your entire personality. It's a response connected to a moment. And when you can identify the moment, you can begin preparing a different response. This is where we turn awareness into movement. I want to give your self-awareness a new job. Not to judge you, not to keep explaining you, to help you choose. Use this 4-step habit. Remember one word: road. R. Recognize the moment. O. Observe the pattern from a small distance. A. Answer it with a prepared action. D. Do something that creates evidence. Let us walk through it. R. Recognize the moment. Do not wait until the end of the day to discover what happened. Learn the earliest signal. Maybe your chest becomes tight. Maybe you immediately open another browser tab. Maybe you begin mentally rehearsing every possible outcome. Maybe you feel the sudden need to check your phone. Maybe you hear yourself saying, "I will do it later when I feel clearer." That is the moment. Not after you have wasted 3 hours. Not after you have already said yes. Not after you have sent the message you knew you should not send. The earliest recognizable signal is the entrance to the pattern. Name it in one sentence. I am about to agree because disappointing this person feels dangerous. I am researching again because taking action could expose me to rejection. I'm checking their profile because uncertainty feels harder than disappointment. I am criticizing this draft because finishing it would allow someone to judge it. One sentence. Not your complete life story. You already know the story. Name what is happening now. O. Observe from a small distance. When you are emotionally inside a pattern, every thought feels like a command. Create a little distance. Use your own name. Ask, what does Nora afraid will happen here? What does Daniel actually need to do next? What would I tell someone I loved if they were in this exact situation? Imagine watching the moment from the opposite side of the room. Do you see a weak person, or do you see a capable person experiencing an old fear? Do you see a permanent identity, or a practiced response asking to be repeated? Distance doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It means creating enough room between the feeling and the action for choice to enter. A. Answer it with a prepared action. This is where most insight fails. People know what they should stop doing, but they haven't decided what they will do instead. Create one if-then sentence. If this happens, then I will do this. If I begin rewriting the same email for the 4th time, then I will read it once and send it. If someone asks me for time I do not have, then I will say, let me check my schedule and come back to you. If I feel the urge to contact someone who repeatedly destabilizes me, then I will wait 20 minutes and message a trusted friend first. If I catch myself researching after I already know the next step, then I will work for 10 minutes before consuming more information. If I begin attacking myself after a mistake, then I will name the correction without turning it into a judgment about my character. Your response needs to be simple enough to remember while you're emotional. You do not rise to the level of an inspiring quote. You often return to the response you have practiced, so prepare the response. D. Do something that creates evidence. Insight lives in your mind. Change needs to enter the physical world. Send the email. Close the extra tab. Speak the boundary. Set the timer. Submit the application. Put the phone in another room. Ask the question. Publish the imperfect page. The action doesn't need to transform your entire life. It needs to create one piece of evidence that the old pattern is no longer making every decision. Use a 24-hour rule. When you have a meaningful realization, convert it into one observable action within the next 24 hours. You realize you hide your work because it may be judged. Show one unfinished piece to someone safe. You realize you avoid asking for help because you want to appear capable. Ask for one small thing. You realize distraction is consuming the hours meant for your future. Remove one source of distraction before tomorrow's work begins. You may be more talented than your current results show. You may be more capable than the evidence around you suggests. But potential cannot protect your future by itself. Talent without repeated action remains invisible. Ambition without protected attention becomes frustration. And intelligence without behavioral evidence becomes another story you tell yourself. This does not mean you are lazy. It means distraction may currently be easier than discomfort. It means preparation may feel safer than exposure. It means your habits may be serving immediate relief instead of the life you say you want. That can change. Not because someone tells you you are destined to become rich, successful, or extraordinary. No video can honestly promise that. It can change because you can train a different response to a familiar moment. Recognize, observe, answer, do. That is the road. And the road becomes clearer after you begin walking it.
Now turn this into a habit. For the next 7 days, choose one pattern, not 5, not your entire personality. One pattern. Maybe it is saying yes too quickly. Maybe it is opening social media whenever work becomes uncomfortable. Maybe it is avoiding one important conversation. Maybe it is rewriting everything because you are afraid of being judged. Maybe it is contacting someone whenever loneliness makes you forget how they treated you. Choose one trigger. Choose one prepared response. And keep the experiment small enough to repeat. Every evening, write 4 short lines. What triggered me? What was my old urge? What response did I choose? What evidence did I create? That's all. You do not need to examine your entire childhood before going to sleep. You are collecting proof. Proof that awareness can become choice. Proof that discomfort does not have to become obedience. Proof that a label does not control every decision. Proof that your oldest pattern is not your only available response. Now I want you to repeat one sentence. Not because words are magic, not because saying something automatically makes it true. Repeat it because it gives your mind a clear instruction when the old script begins. Say this: I am not my oldest pattern. Again, I am not my oldest pattern. Now complete it. I can feel the old urge and still choose my next response. You do not have to feel powerful while saying it. You do not have to believe that you are fearless. You only need to remember that a feeling and a command are not the same thing. Here's the final test. The next time you begin analyzing a familiar problem, ask, is this thought giving me new information or delaying an action I already know I need to take? Listen to your answer. If the thought is genuinely producing new information, keep reflecting. But if you're circling an explanation you've repeated 20 times, stop. Take the smallest visible step. A message sent, a boundary stated, a screen closed, a page written, a decision tested, a request made, a different sentence spoken. That's how the mirror becomes a doorway. And if your attention drifted while you were listening, do not attack yourself for it. That would only create another pattern to analyze. Save this video. Play it again when you can listen without scrolling, working, or opening another app. Not because you need another motivational speech every day. Use it as a reset until the road method becomes familiar. Recognize, observe, answer, do. Now, before you read anyone else's comment, write yours. Don't copy a perfect answer. Don't write what sounds impressive. Start your comment with these exact words. The pattern I am ready to interrupt is. Then write the first honest thing that comes to mind. Underneath it, add, when it appears, I will, and finish the sentence with one action another person could physically observe. I also want to hear the problem you cannot stop thinking about. Leave it in the same comment. I'm using the recurring struggles in this community to choose future videos, so your question may become the subject that helps thousands of other people who are carrying the same thing silently. If one specific person entered your mind while you were listening, share this video with them. Not as criticism, not as a way of saying, you need to change. Send it with one sentence. I heard this and thought it might help both of us. Sometimes sharing something useful isn't promotion, it's support. And subscribe if this video helped you move from understanding yourself to choosing what happens next. This channel is for thoughtful people who don't need more empty motivation. They need language for what they're experiencing and a road they can actually walk. A mirror can show you exactly where you are, but it cannot take your next step. Your mind was never broken. It may have simply become better at studying the road than walking it. Now, close the explanation and create the evidence.